Hey everybody, I'm Robert. I'd like to welcome you back to the channel. Welcome down here to the barn at Apex. Today I thought it would actually be kind of neat to share with you a couple of my BMWs out of my BMW collection. I know it's lame saying that because I always talk about how I'm not a car collector. Every car I get, I hope that I'm going to drive it. Some I get to drive more, some I get to drive less. It all really just comes down to time. And the reality is now doing more with this channel, I think it's given me the opportunity to enjoy the cars a little bit more. So I have to actually thank you guys for that, for being so supportive and asking so many questions and being so involved in these projects that it's actually gotten me more involved in the cars and even got me more excited about projects like the E30 M3 right here. So I'll talk you through each of these cars. It's going to be a brief introduction to each of these cars. Many of you know about them, but we can talk a little bit about them. And then what we'll do is I'll invite you to ask any questions you have about these cars in the comment section. And then we will do an in-depth video on that specific car, answering your questions and really just talking about every feature that each of these cars has. So why don't we start over here? Well, actually, before I do that, I'll introduce each one of them to you. Tom can pan around and check them out. This is the E92 M3 as a 4.4 liter stroker motor, built obviously by Team Schirmer, known often as the XX31. We joke about it being XX31.2, and that's because there is two cars of the XX31. They both ran that license plate, had the same owner at a certain time in their life, and we're running on the Nürburgring, creating a lot of excitement. So this is E92 XX31, 4.4 liter stroker, very, very fast car, very fun car. Then we have here something that everyone on the channel is probably familiar with. This is the new, to me now, E30 M3. This is a car that I purchased for just a little bit of fun, a little bit of excitement, something to drive on the road, to take it back to maybe a better time in automotive production, and a little bit more exciting time, homologation cars, excitement, not so many features, not so much heating systems and buttons and dials and creature comforts, but just something that's all about driving excitement and loving the car that you're in. Then we have over here the M4. This is an M4 VLN car. This is actually built again by Team Schirmer. This car is a full race car, is running the endurance racing series here on the Nürburgring, and is actually a road legal car. So that's something that's really cool. Something that was, when I first saw this car, it was actually a sister car. Again, there's two of these cars. I saw it sitting down at Team Schirmer, and I was with Misha, and I said, you know what, Misha, I want that car. And at that time, Misha said, yeah, there's probably a 3-year wait to get that car. And I said, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna talk to Tom. And sure enough, we built a relationship. We did some things with the taxis. And I said, come on, Tom, sell me one of these cars. And he finally did, and I got my hands on it, I would say almost 2 years ago. Absolute pleasure to drive, really exciting. So the reason I thought it'd be fun to share these cars with you is because they each represent a different era in BMW's, I guess you could say, history of the M car. We have, as it stands right now, cars that you have available to you. The oldest M3, one that really stood out in the middle with an exciting motor, an exciting package, an absolutely beautiful car. If you look at that, I could sit here and look at this car all the time. I joke a lot that I think about selling cars sometimes if I don't get to drive them as much. All I have to do is one time walk in and look at this car, really from the angle I'm at right now, and see this, and I just say, you know what, it's gonna stay. I'll put it on a turntable and check it out. And then you go to what is the newest car. I know that we've got a new grille coming out, and that'll be here pretty soon, but this is currently the newest M of this generation. And it's hard, it was disappointing for me to see BMW change this to an M4. This is obviously the M3 version, just the 2-door. So it's tricky with the naming, but this is the current 2-door of this segment, and it is the most current, so it represents a turbo era. It represents a little bit different idea than every generation before that, being naturally aspirated and a little bit more exciting. But this car, the way that Team Schirmer has built it, is an absolute machine. It is incredibly fast and an absolute blast to drive. So why don't we start with the E92 M3. We'll go in, we'll check it out. I'll show you the interior and yeah, talk just a little bit about the car. As you can see, it's set on BBS E88s, which in my opinion is one of the most beautiful wheels that you can put on a car right now if you're just looking at just basic style and excitement. A track car. You obviously have to have a taste for it. The black and gold combination is really something that stands out. There's quite a bit of carbon fiber from the front lip to the mirror caps to the rear wing. It does have carbon fiber, but when you go inside, that's where it also gets quite exciting. Inside the car, you have got obviously maybe type club sport type of feel to it. The idea that Schirmer had when they built this car was they wanted something that almost had nice finishes like a factory type of car would have. You can see it's got the Alcantara dash, Alcantara center console wrap and everything like that. But they went ahead and stripped out the floorboards and put the carbon fiber floorboards in, Alcantara wrap steering wheel. And we've also put in, because we're using the car on the racetrack, we've put in a full Race Navigator Pro system. This system right here does all of your lap timing. It does all your video recording. It has, I think we've got 3 cameras set up inside the car, forward, rear facing, and then we also have a trunk camera that looks out the back and shows you the track from behind, and that's really neat as well. So the car is set up very well from Race Navigator Pro, fire systems, kill switches. As you can see, a very stout roll cage, but it's also trimmed out nicely with all of the carbon fiber door cards even in the back of the car, carpeting all the way out the back. It's a really cool car, and it's a car that makes you feel absolutely special to drive. When you're driving this car, the feel, the feedback, the engagement that it gives you is probably one of the best cars that I have driven in terms of that feel and feedback. You steer it with your feet. If you need to turn in, you need to rotate more or less. You're doing it simply by applying a little bit of gas, a little less gas, and it really is a pleasurable car to drive. And one of the things that brings that to the forefront is this motor. 4.4 liter, naturally aspirated V8 is absolutely stunning. It makes 500 horsepower, a little over 500 horsepower, a little bit more than 500 pound-feet of torque, or newton meters of torque, I'm sorry. And it's just an absolute blast. Why don't we move over now to the E30 M3? I'll show you guys a little bit about that car, what I like about it, why I bought it, and what we're going to do with it. So the E30 M3 is, I think, to a lot of people, a classic car. It's a car that was built for homologation purposes so that BMW could get into touring car racing and really be successful with that, and they did. They built this car and they went out and they really did well in the race series. They built the first car, the M3, Evolution 1, Evolution 2, and then finally the Sport Evolution. This is the Evolution 2 car, and it was the one that I really was after. It's a car that I really wanted and a car I was really excited for because it had a lot of nice features in terms of the driving characteristic, the power delivery, and things like that. So it was a car that I knew that I wanted, and when I saw this car available for sale, before I even went and saw it, I knew this was the car that I was going to take home. I'm very, very happy with it. But what does this car represent? It represents, as I mentioned, a time when cars were more simple, when it was all about driving pleasure and driving experience. And we're going to build it to share all of those experiences. We're going to go ahead, we're going to put in large camshafts to get a nice idle sound, to get a little bit of excitement when you start the car up. We're going to do carbon fiber air intake. That carbon fiber air intake will let you hear the actual valve train working through the intake and resonate into the car, so it gets you more emotion inside the car. And then of course we're going to do a full exhaust system. This is a pre-cat car, so you don't have to worry about catalytic converters, so you get that nice raw sound from the motor. Beyond that, we're going to put a full 3-way adjustable JRZ suspension on the car, BBS wheels, 17-inch is what the goal is, BBS wheels, nice polished finish so that it has a really classic look against the blue. As we go around the car, we're just going to clean up the paint, we're going to polish it, PPF it, get everything in order, and eventually I do plan to return the car back to Misano Red, which is the original factory color. And we're going to do, in addition to that, I'll show you some interior work, we're going to do nice work on the interior. I'm still debating because when I drove this car, I have to admit, we went down to pick it up, and to pick it up, we drove my T6 van there, and I was more comfortable driving this car with these seats 300 kilometers on the way back to Apex than I was driving the T6 van 300 kilometers there to pick it up. So I have to say, I'm really debating if I'm going to just refinish these seats and run them, or if I'm going to go to a new Recaro that also folds back so we can get access to the back seats. That's something that's still to be determined, but I do want to go ahead and I want to work on the door cards. I want to work on the interior. I want to make it special. I want to make it mine. We're going to put in a nice stereo system, new speakers, tweeters, door speakers, and rear deck speakers. We're going to get a nice head unit that has a classic look to it, and these are all things that we're actually going to do on this channel, bring you guys along on so that you can see what's going on and share in the excitement of this build. But this is something I want to use on the road. I want to enjoy. I just want to have fun with, take the family for a nice drive on the weekend and do the occasional Nürburgring lap. You're never going to see a fast lap with this car. You're going to see us out cruising. We're going to make some nice videos on the Nürburgring with this car, and I think it's going to just really embody a time when cars were simple, a time when cars were fun, and you weren't just chasing lap times, and you weren't always just chasing the newest car, the next thing that was coming out next week. Why don't we jump on over to the M4 VLN car now. We'll talk about this car. We'll talk about what it is, where it came from, and again, why I bought it. You guys know that I saw this at Team Schirmer. It was all black at the time. You could see carbon fiber panels and all this stuff. And I said, you know what? I want that car. It's one of those cars that you just felt like you needed when you saw it. And it really is a special car to drive. We talk about how the E92 is all about driver feedback and feel. And this car, being bigger car, being wider, having wider tires, actually does lose a little bit of that feel and feedback. But when you're driving this car, it has grunt. It's about 575 horsepower. When you get on it and you come out of the turns, the exhaust just roars and it puts the power down and it goes. And this car is about brute force. It runs right now a 315 Nankang tire square. We might even have 295s on it right now. Just rolling on it, let me see. Yeah, we're on 295s. But normally when we're running on the track, we're running a 315/18 tire square. And it's set up and it works with that because we have the wider fenders. We have the carbon fiber wide body on the car, as you can see. The car, since when I bought it, Team Schirmer built the car for me. We did everything and we actually painted the car in this matte silver. So this is paint, and then it has full PPF on the entire car. The entire car is protected with a PPF. This has the Speedline Corsa wheels on it, which is again a wheel that I think really fits the style and the wide character of this car. The wheel rolls in really nicely and accents just the shapes of the car as a whole with the wide body. As you come in, I'll walk around the other side. You can look from this side, Tom Stamp. The interior of this car, again, is really exciting. It's a lot of fun. We're doing some work on it right now. So we have the door cards off. We've actually just put in carbon doors. So the doors are a nice lightweight carbon fiber. We have new carbon fiber door cards that we're putting on that are actually custom molded. Very beautiful door cards we're putting on. So we're always improving the cars and doing fun little things. As you can see, it's got a very racy feel to it. We've got all of our gauges here. We've got our kill switches. In fact, we also did, Tom, why don't you show them the dash up there, the AIM dash. We have the dash, and it has also custom programming. M, Apex, and Schmickler, that's who programmed it. So we've got our logo on it when we start up the car, which I think is pretty cool. We've got hardwired mounts up on the dash for our race navigator system. And we're also working on a new steering wheel. This is just something temporary that we have. But this car is all about brute force. If you look in the back of the car, you can see the fuel tank housing right down here. This holds 110 liters of fuel. So you can run in endurance racing, or if you're running TF like I like to do with the cars, you can go out and literally do 10 laps on a tank of fuel. You're not going in and you're not constantly refueling the car, and that's what's neat for me. One of the coolest features about this car is right here. This is actually an entrance, basically a, what'd you call it? I can't even think of the name of it right now. This is a license that got the car into the N24 race. This car actually ran in the Nürburgring 24 hour. And this is basically what certified the car to be able to run in that. And this is something that we're actually going to PPF over because this car did run in the Nürburgring 24-hour racing. And I think that's a neat part of the car's history. So that's this car. It's absolutely phenomenal, a lot of fun. Another cool thing that it has is it does have all the housings. I'll come over and open the door for Tom so he can show you. But it has all of the housings still for the air jack system. So if we wanted to, we could go ahead and put air jacks back in the car. Tom, you can see it right here. This is the housing for the air jack system. We could put them back in and use the car with air jacks. I think George would like that when I come in for tire pressures. I could lift it up and get it up to his level and he could work on it. But again, an absolutely brutal car, an absolute blast to drive on the racetrack. And I think if you get to know me and you get to know what I'm doing, every one of my cars is my favorite car. Whenever I talk about it, I get excited about it. When I think about driving them, I get excited about it. But each of these, I would say, in my car fleet are definitely holding a special space. And to be honest with you, each of these cars holds a more special space than even my supercars and things like that. These are cars that we worked on the process of building without, obviously, exception to the E92. But each of these cars is something that is built, not bought. It literally is someone's emotion and someone's, I guess, concept of a car all put together and brought to a purpose for what we use it for. So I hope you guys have enjoyed looking at my M4, my E30 M3, and the E92 M3, all cars that I personally have a blast with. I say my car, they're Apex cars as a whole. I mean, obviously I've owned the car, I bought the car, but I see them as a product that embodies what Apex is sharing. And I think it shares the excitement that Apex is. It shares the excitement of the Nürburgring. I hope you guys see that. I hope you see that in the products. Let me know what you guys think about the cars. I am very happy to do a full walkthrough on each and every one of these cars, showing in depth under the hood, under the car, etc. Something that could be a lot of fun. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what questions you have. And as always, thank you guys so much for all the support for the channel. You guys are awesome. Thank you for the motivation. And as I said earlier in this video, thank you for getting me out here and getting to enjoy these cars a little bit more. We'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.